What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. As I'm sure many of you know, Sword of Legends Online is just a few days away from releasing. And for those of you who have kept up with my content, you know that one of the most important critical things that I've said that was going to determine the success of Sword of Legends Online was going to be the pace in which they release content. Well, just a few days ago, they had a live stream where they actually showed us a post-release roadmap for the content of the game. And overall, I gotta say, pretty solid. It's definitely a very good roadmap for what they have planned. There are a couple things that are a little confusing, or maybe I wouldn't even say really concerning, just have us thrown off a little bit when we compare it to China and Taiwan. But we'll talk about that during the video, and let's get into that. So as always, if you enjoy the video, be sure to like and subscribe as always, and let's break it down. So first thing that they had on there is the official release, July 9th. As if you do not know, Sword of Legends Online is releasing on July 9th. The game is buy to play, so you do need to buy the game. You can get it on Steam or through Gameforge, either one. There are some really big things that they are doing. First is that they are extending the arena time for until 4 a.m. So originally the cutoff was 1 a.m. Now it's going to go until 4 a.m. So it is a much larger window now in which you're going to be able to queue for the arena system. They are still going to have a smaller lockout window in which you are not able to queue for it. However, they have also added in custom 3v3 matches that you're able to run at any time. There's no time restrictions on them, so that's really nice as well. Additionally, another quality of life thing that they have added is that they have added 2 additional skin tones, as well as a much darker skin tone to the game for those who have desired, having that sort of character customization. Here's a little example of what that darker skin tone will look like. So that's for those of you who really wanted to be able to have a darker skin colored character. There you go. You got it. Awesome. All right. So that's some awesome, great stuff that they've done there for the release of the game that people are going to be able to have access to right away. Really nice stuff. In that first month of July, there's going to already be some events planned. There's going to be the summer event planned. For those who don't know, Sword of Legends Online likes to do a lot of seasonal events in their game. And so the first one is going to be the summer event, which is going to be partaking in various activities for both PvE and PvP players, as well as the start of the Season 1 Battle Pass. Now, the Battle Pass, they actually showed as well, and what was going to be on it, and how to acquire the completion of the Battle Pass. So, showing here, this was the example of the Battle Pass that they brought up. And as you can see, there are 2 rows of it. There is the free row, which everybody has access to by default. And then there is the premium row. The premium row is entirely exclusively cosmetic. They wanted to stress that heavily. The pricing for the Battle Pass is going to come out to, they said, around about 10 euros. So the free track on there, there is a gear piece that is slated a little bit in there for the free track. However, that is a track that everyone has access to. So nobody is paying for an advantage or anything like that. That's not a thing. The premium track is entirely exclusively cosmetic. So do not worry about that. You are 100% just paying for outfits and other exclusive cosmetics that, you could only get through the Battle Pass. So if you want those, you got to pay for it. But the way you complete your Battle Pass track is, as they mentioned these activities, there is going to be a separate tab right here that is a bunch of different activities that you can do in order to progress your Battle Pass track. You are not limited to having to do everything, right? They have a bunch of quests for each different types of category depending on the content that you like to engage in. If you are somebody who likes PvE, there is a row of PvE category based tasks that you can complete for the Battle Pass in order to progress it. If you're a PvP focused player, there's a PvP row of content. And if you're someone who loves the leisure activities, you're fishing, you're Bomberman, all those things, there's a row of leisure activities for quests that you can complete in order to progress your Battle Pass track. Now, that being said, the Battle Pass does run for about 6 weeks. So, you do not even need to, make progress on it every single day. There's 30 days worth of progress on it. However, you have 6 weeks to do it, so you do not even need to do it in 30 days. You can take 40 days. If you have to miss some days, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's not like if you miss a day, it's the end of the world. You can't make it up. So that's some really big important stuff there for the first thing of July. But then again, in July, another update still, and this is probably going to be the last week of July looking at it. And this is going to be the first raid is going to come out. This was something that was super important because of the way the content and gearing is done in solo, with the way things are on a weekly lockout and the definitive gear progression from getting loot from dungeons. When the first raid came out was going to be super valuable, because if it took too long, people would get bored. Really awesome that in the same month that the game releases, we are getting the first raid. The first raid is going to be Zhuanju Palace, Jade Palace. It's going to have 6 bosses, and it's going to have your next level of gear up above hard mode dungeons. All right, so it's a pretty nice raid overall. For those who don't know, raids like the hard mode dungeons function on a weekly lockout system. Okay, so once you do it for that week, you're done with it. It's not you go back and rerun it over and over, anything like that, as it is typically with raids. So that's the first raid. Really important that that's coming out at that time. Looking forward to that. So for those who don't know, as soon as you do, so it's probably going to be 3 weeks of content. The raid releases. For those who don't know, the gearing process is super definitive, so you can be in a full hard mode set of gear after 3 weeks of the game being out, because you are guaranteed gear slots, specific gear slots, as you complete dungeon content. You won't get repeat slots until you've completely filled your current gear slot loadout, so don't worry about that. But yeah, the first raid will come out, so that's really good. But then going on into August, and now this is where it's going to throw a little bit of people, some people off. There is going to be another raid released. All right, but don't let this, confuse you. It's not like a full-blown raid. Okay. This is just a 1 boss raid. There are going to be 2 additional 1 boss single raids that you do. All right, so don't think that it's another like 6 boss raid kind of thing, and there's just like they're throwing way too much stuff at you. They're 1 boss raids. They do not take a lot of time. They'll initially take time as you learn the fights, of course, but in the grand scheme of things, they become very quick. So don't let that, overwhelm you at all. But moving into what looks like to be August, we actually have even more raid content coming into August, September, probably closer to September. There's going to be 2 new 1 boss raids. So again, 1 boss raids, very common in the early stages of the game for this. So don't let it, again, they're not crazy 6 boss raids or anything like that. They're a bunch of 1 boss, one-off raids. So they're just, they're new things to do in between the main content updates that occur. So this is one of the ways that solo keeps their content moving and keep people engaged with things in the game to do. But then we're going to have the fall event, fall themed activities. And then that's when the Battle Pass Season 2 will begin. So the second Battle Pass will start sometime in September. And as we mentioned before, there's a whole slew of quests specifically for the type of content you enjoy to get involved in. And now this is the first one that it throws me off a little bit, is September is when they're actually going to have the hard mode of the raid. The thing that's a little confusing here, and I'm going to be curious to see how they do it, is that if you actually looked on China and Taiwan, the hard mode version of the Jade Palace is on the same gear level as the normal mode of those other 1 boss raids. So the question behind it is, what kind of purpose is that hard mode going to serve, other than the sake of it being a challenge for people to clear and do? I don't know if it's supposed to have a purpose beyond that or not. But looking at it, the hard mode Jade Palace is in the same tier of the eye level 75 gear route that the normal modes of these other 1 boss raids are, and some of them are even like higher eye level. So I'm not sure if it's going to be a little bit different for us, but that'll be interesting to see. And then looking on beyond those first 3 months, the 4th quarter, they haven't really given any details specifically around it, because they did want to say that only the first 3 months are the stuff that is definitive, locked in stone. Everything else beyond that is purely speculative and up in the air. But they are looking forward to more events, as well as more hard modes for the raids. You know, all those other one boss raids that they had, right? More of that. But then towards the end of the year, look forward to new dungeons, not only visually, but also difficulty. And so that leads into believe that they're looking at potentially unlocking nightmare modes, which would be really interesting because nightmare modes are the next like big tier of challenging content. That is the original 5 dungeons on their highest difficulties with additional mechanics and everything involved there. Nightmare modes are supposed to be really awesome, challenging versions of the dungeons. So looking forward to that. They did talk about new classes and saying that there are no new classes planned for this year. They know it's something a lot of people want. However, you know, they are going on a little bit of a faster timeline than China. However, they are trying to stay relatively true to the process of that timeline. And so while in China it took over a year for the first new class to come, it'll most likely come next year, probably around the middle of the year, but not any time really before that. I understand them not wanting to push the new classes out right away, because if you did push out the new classes right away, Samurai, Fox, Mage, and Archer, literally everybody would be playing those. The original 6 classes would be almost entirely obsolete, because the newer classes, just because of the way they're designed, function so much better. It's not even necessarily a matter of balancing. It's a matter of the old classes, the way they're designed, the way the classes function, are not as fun or fluid or well designed as the newer classes. The newer classes, even if they may have similar DPS, just feel better to play in general because of the, you know, just overall design creep from working on the game for years and adding in new things. You make things better than what you originally designed them as, and that's just part of, you know, how that happens. So that's one of the things that, you know, will be there, but, you know, don't worry about it. When the new classes come out, there's other catch-up mechanics that come into play with the game for solo. Every time there's like a new tier of like content that unlocks, right, there's, you know, a whole new set of normal dungeons that unlock, and the tutorial quest, you know, puts you at a higher eye level as well, and all those things, right? For anybody who's played on Taiwan, if you make a new character, you start at like 295 eye level. So as the game progresses, so does the tutorial with where it starts your character. So starting a new character later on, if it's one of the new classes, you're not necessarily going to be behind, so don't worry about that as much. All right, but that is everything that we've talked about with the roadmap. Really awesome stuff overall, you guys. A lot of positives. Definitely really interested to see how it's going to shape up after these first 3 months, and even how the hard rate is going to play into all of this. But overall, I gotta say, the pacing in which they currently are set to release content and how they're doing it, very good, well done, great job to you, Gameforge, for it. So looking forward to seeing how that all plays out. Solo, guys, it's a really solid MMO. It's definitely one of those ones, if you have, you know, not a lot of time, it's very friendly to players who don't have a lot of time because of the way it's set up. So I definitely recommend checking it out. The biggest drawback the game still does face, and will probably always face until it gets updated to Unreal Engine 4, is the really atrocious optimization of the client. The client is not very well optimized at all. It does not run particularly well for FPS performance. You do find yourself having to turn off character models pretty consistently, but hopefully that Unreal Engine update can come sooner rather than later, and that can, you know, only further help the product of Solo. But that's all, everyone. As always, thanks for watching, have a good one, and we will catch you on release. Take care.